Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm your host, Rob Younts, and thank you for tuning back into the Canecast Show. If today's your first episode, we've got a good one for you. If you've been with us before, we appreciate you coming back. But either way, today's guest is no stranger to the Canes program. He is a Canes Central Director and the Canes 17 National Pitching Coach. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you a favor. We really need your help in growing this show. First of all, smash that like button for us. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast host, give us a like. 2, drop us a comment. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like about the show. 3, help us grow by subscribing. That lets others know that this show's legit. 4, show us some love with a review. 5, share it. Send this to your friends and enemies who are missing baseball right now. There are a lot of people that are itching for baseball, us being one of them. Today, we're talking with Jason Mills. He directs our Canes Central program and serves as pitching coach on our 17 national team. Listen to Coach Mills talk about the development of the Central teams, the recruiting process, and how our Central guys just get committed to schools. As always, he serves up great advice, so let's not hesitate and get to Coach Mills right now. Hey, what's up, everybody? Rob Younts and Jeff Petty here with another edition of Canecast Show. We have a really cool guest. He's one of my favorite people in all the world, not just in baseball. He's the director of the Canes Central program, as well as the pitching coach on the 17U national team. So Jeff Petty knows him really well. I consider him a really good friend. Jason Mills, how the heck are you this morning?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Yeah.
Like to see that smiling face, buddy. Man, so crazy world we're living in. How are you guys holding up there in Greenville?
Doing pretty good. Not being a big city or near a big city, we're relatively few cases. So fortunate there. If we can just keep people from crowding into Walmart and Lowe's, we'll be okay. But everything's going well so far.
Good to hear. Good to hear the family's doing well. Jeff, how about you? How are those poopy diapers going, man?
They're steady and messy. Nothing that neither of you have ever not been through.
Right.
Just the stage that we're going through right now, man, being stuck in the house. I mean, it's an interesting stage for sure.
Yeah.
But Brooke is off on a 4-mile bike ride with Courtney right now.
Very nice.
Watson's walking with them in the stroller, and then the baby is right here.
Snoozing away.
Yeah.
Lucky.
So, yeah, that's us
Lucky.
right now. Check back in a couple hours. It'll be different.
Yeah, right. So, Millsy, man, you get a lot on your plate, buddy. You have a great high school program at D.H. Conley, and you are in charge of our Central program. Tell us a little bit about our Central program, because I'm not sure a lot of people know exactly how we're set up and the importance of our Central program.
So our Central program's based pretty much in North Carolina. We do have a couple Southern Virginia kids and a couple Northern South Carolina kids that might jump across the border with us. Problem in North Carolina is it's just such a big state. I mean, people-wise, it's not enormous, but distance-wise, it's enormous. From Asheville to Murphy to Manteo is about an 11-hour drive one way or the other. So regionalizing teams inside the state and compartmentalizing them is really important to our organization, because that way we don't have kids from Greenville traveling to Asheville every weekend to play, and they can play with kids local. It's starting at the young age groups, really important. Our youth programs all the way into our 15-year-olds, and then it kind of whittles down into the who's who of potential Division I, Division II, Division III JUCO type players at that 17U level. It's a competitive state. There's a lot of organizations here, but our Central program has really shined over the past. I think the last time, and with the coaches we have set up in place, that makes it really easy. We have some great coaches, past and present, and those guys do a wonderful job and a great job putting together great talent in the state, and then the kids do it and the parents do the rest. And we've got a good system here in North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always neat to see guys progress through our system. Starting on a regional team and moving up to a national level team. So on the eastern part of the state, that's where you are. Tell us a little bit about the baseball there. How competitive. Some of the talent that's there, and you can even touch. I'll give you a few seconds to touch on DH Conley, because I know you guys have had a lot of success there.
So eastern side of North Carolina is kind of interesting because it's so rural. There's so many small schools. We don't have but a few big schools. J.H. Rose, Conley, South Central, and New Bern are east of 95 until you get to Wilmington. And so most of the schools are small. So, they're not huge in talent. There's some really good quality programs, but they always have a pop-in player here or there. It's kind of neat right now in this part, or in Greenville alone, we have 2 kids that are on our 16U national team, just, within a couple miles of each other. We're kind of going through that time right now with the Little League World Series groups coming through. I got about 7 of them at my school, and they're a lot of fun and very talented. As you get going out of eastern North Carolina, though, and you move into the Fayetteville, into the Raleigh area and the Greensboro area, Winston-Salem, you get in Charlotte, of course, you get some massive schools. So the disparity in our schools, it's crazy. We have like 425 schools, public schools in the state, including charter. And the 4A level ranges from 1,600 all the way to 4,300. And so I'm the smallest 4A school in the next realignment. Myers Park, where Patty Alvarez went, they're going to be 4,300 kids. So that's who we're going to be competing against. And then you got Cardinal Gibbons, who's a private school, and they're about 4,000 kids, and we'll be competing with them. And then you look down into the smaller level schools, and there's just so many schools, charter schools. I think there was like 56 charter schools in North Carolina now that have athletic programs. So it's kind of bumping everybody up. But, it's a good range. Eastern North Carolina, I mean, it's those country boys who like to play baseball. I mean, that's the fun thing about it. So once in a while you got to go searching. You can go all the way up to Currituck, and you can look up there and you can find, the Evan Volvas or the Cannon Piquels, those type of kids at a school that has 1,000 kids at it, and all of a sudden they're pumping out D1 one after another. So it's a definite good area for baseball.
Yeah, man, sounds like it. Tell us a little bit about what your outlook for our central teams this year. I know we've put the rosters together and things like that. I've seen them on paper, and there's a lot of names I recognize there. There's actually 2 kids that play for us or play for Greenbrier Christian that are dipping down and playing with the Central this year, in James McGrady and Ethan Ott. 2 really solid 2021 grads, but I know those rosters are really stout. What do you know about all those rosters, and talking to your Central coaches?
Well, the big thing is at the 17U level, we want to have those kids. Those are the kids that are at the time very important, because we've got to get them an opportunity to play in college. And so that group is a very important, we've got to have good resources and good coaches helping them out and working their way. Hopefully, playing this summer will be a big key, especially missing the high school season. That's going to be a huge time for these guys. And hopefully the training and the mentorship and the program that our coaches have ready for them, and the program has ready for them, will help them get to that next level that they want to get to. Our 16s, for me, looking at it, that's a big time when they have to, they start that recruiting trail. Whether they're committing or whether they're getting their names on the books or getting their names crossed off the books. That's an important time. And, those 17 and 16-year-old levels are really important to, get them ID'd. And then by the time they're 17 years old, around that 17, you have a chance for them to have some schools making some offers, or some schools showing some interest or making some visits. For me, at the 15 level, in 16 and 17 as well. But at the 15 level, it's all about development of those kids. And that's why, some of our best coaches are at that age group. And, we'll take some really good coaches like a Brian Tuck or a Bryson Massey and stick them down with that age group because, we know they're developers and they're teachers and they know how to get the best out of those kids and at the same time can help them pick out weaknesses that they need to work on and give them a plan to how to fix that. And so our 15U is a little bit more spread out, a little bit more teams, and and those eventually consolidate down as kids start, finding their way in and out of the program. And then 16, we want to have a very strong nucleus and a base there. And then, it's tough decisions at 16U. A lot of kids are starting to make that decision, whether they're position players or pitchers or both. And, and I know everybody wants to do both, but a lot of times I look at those guys that say, hey, I'm going to hang up the bat for the summer and just be a pitcher. And then they start focusing on that. All of a sudden they start propelling a whole bunch. And, that's kind of a sweet spot for me that, I'm fortunate at my high school, I can carry 20 to 25 guys and I'll have 6 or 7 pitcher onlys. And, getting a 16-year-old to understand, hey, you got to give up the bat for your future is tough sometimes. But if you can sell it out to those individuals, it can be a great thing, a great asset for them that they can, have a bright future on the mound or, maybe give up the mound and just become a hitter, and start putting that towards that part too.
Well, and I think, and I know Jeff can attest to this, and is that I think sometimes with guys that think they're two-way, maybe he's really good on the mound and not so good with the bat. I think sometimes it muddies the water if they continue to be a two-way. You're really good here, but you're just okay here, and you may have a coach that comes out to see you one time, and he sees you're at bat, and that's his only impression of you. He may hear about Jason Mills is a great player, great high school player, but we know Jason Mills was a much better pitcher than he was a hitter.
Yeah, I could bunt pretty well.
So it's some, college coach comes out to see you, and they may not have a lot of background on you. They come out and see you as a hitter, and they're going, "Who's this Jason Mills kid? Why am I even coming out to watch him?" And then it could be a couple days later or at another time they hear, "Well, Jason Mills is a pitcher." Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense because he wasn't very good at the plate. Problem is, it takes a lot of introspection, a lot of looking in the mirror, a lot of really understanding who you are as a player. Jeff, we talk about it all the time with kids. How do we help get that message across to players that go where your strengths are? I mean, I know there's for every kid that we talk to about being a PO, there's a Jordan, there's a Jordan Adele out of maybe one every 100 or every 1,000 or every 100,000. How do we, how do we get to that point where we can have that conversation?
Oh, the best thing to do is just be honest, and you got to be brutally honest and lay it out there, and that's always the safest way to handle it. I mean, we had Grant Holmes, years ago, and he wanted to hit. I remember meeting with him. He wanted to come on, but he's like, "I want to hit. I want to hit." I'm like, "We're gonna let you hit. We're gonna let you swing the bat." But then it just and Grant was a fine high school hitter, but he was a first round pitcher, and it's like, hey man, is this really worth running you out to right field? And maybe you get hurt. And I think he started to grasp that, and then the hitting kind of dwindled down with him. It's when you're on a team with a bunch of college level players, position players, and let's say there's 13 guys on the central team, and they're all college level players. And then you're a college level pitcher, whatever level, but you're the 8 hitter for a high school team. Well, you can help your high school team in that role, but on this college-laden prospect travel team that you're on, you don't fit into that as a hitter. And the best thing that you can do is communicate that as the coach. And a lot of these, people, these parents and players, they don't want to hear that. But I think for us as an organization, we just be honest, put it out there. Don't tell the kids that we're going to do X, Y, Z and then do something different. And then you're safe. And if they want to go play somewhere else, the problem with that is, and I'm not pointing anyone out, but other organizations a lot of times will tell them what they want to hear and then do what we were going to do anyways. The difference was we told them up front we were going to do it.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a really difficult question that you asked me, Rob.
It is.
I don't know
it
what
really is, but
answer
But
is.
you got it right, Jeff, because I think the way our organization is based and what I was getting at was that you do tell them the truth. You be honest and
Right.
upfront. It's not an easy conversation. I've had it with several kids, as have you and as has Millsy. But the key is having a good coach in place, which our central programs do, our central program, all of our levels do. Being able to have that trust and respect of the coach, and then being able to go and tell the player very honestly and very frankly, and being upfront with it. And I think, and the best part was that wasn't scripted whatsoever, but that's exactly the answer I wanted out of you and I knew it was coming because that's how we handle things. That's how it's always come from you.
It's tough sometimes. Like, for
It
instance,
is.
we have 7 outfielders on our roster this summer on our national team. I have never had more than 5, ever. I don't like carrying more than 4, but it worked out that way. 2 of them are going to play first base a lot. I strategically didn't go get a first baseman because Ryan Clifford and Nick McLean are 2 really good first basemen, and they can both bang it. But
Yeah.
I need to put them in the outfield too. But I know every day when we go to the ballpark, either Clifford or McLean's going to be at first base. So it kind of shrinks it down, and you can DH, EH, and get creative and extra hitter and all that. But 7 outfielders is a lot. So what I had to do is I had to call every outfielder on my roster and say, don't freak out. We're going to try to figure this thing out. But I could have totally sandbagged and just not told any of them, right?
Right.
We don't operate that way.
No, we don't. And, it's the importance of what you just said is it comes from the top down. And I know, Jason, you and I don't even feel comfortable calling you Jason. Millsy, you and Jeff,
Never
you were
Jason in my life. Ever. Let's not get too formal here.
Millsy. So I know you and Jeff are great friends, and I know the way that you operate. And in a circular way, that's kind of what I wanted everybody to hear is that that's the same way you run the central our central program is the same way. You're being frank and open and honest and laying the cards out on the table and helping the kids come to the realization you're PO or you're not a pitcher. Those conversations aren't easy. You guys, that's the importance of having great coaches as well.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing that sometimes gets lost because when people look at the Canes, they see our national and American teams and things like that. But where we make the most impact is on our regional level teams. Because, last year we got 150 kids in the 2020 class committed. That's not all on the national team.
God,
that's
no.
That's through great parts of our program, like our central program.
I mean, the year before I joined Jeff with the national group, Daniel Coles and I had a central team, and out of the 18 kids on our roster, 17 of them ended up playing Division I baseball, and the one who didn't ended up playing football in college. So he's still a college athlete, and that's where the people don't realize it. They look sometimes, I think, and they see national or American, and they don't make one of those teams because those are really tough teams to make for anybody. And then they say, oh, well, so-and-so has a national team, and they go there, and it's just kids from North Carolina. It's not really a national.
No, it's our team.
And I have a guy at Conley right now. I won't say his name because I don't want to put him on the spot, but he's really changed. He's gone from being like 6 foot, 170 pounds to being like 6'4", 215. And velocity's gone from like 82 to being 87, 89 and heavy and just, he's a dude. And he left, after last summer because he, wasn't advancing and moving up and everything else and joined another quote unquote national team. And, about 3 weeks ago called me up and was like, hey, you guys got any room back on that central team? And I'm like, well, I can find, because he's pitcher. I mean, he can swing a bit.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, yeah, I think we can do something here.
So he's we were just talking about. He's a Division I pitcher,
Mhm.
and he's going to help you win high school games as a hitter, but he's not a Division I hitter.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he's going to be a dude on the bump, and
Man, he's as
And-
big as a door frame. It's crazy how much his body's changed. It's a miracle what the weight room will do for a kid when he finally commits.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he got with a former football player at East Carolina that was a good friend of mine named Mark Washington and started training at 5:30 in the morning every day before school. And it's just in 9 months how much mass he has put on. And it's not, football lifting. I mean, Mark gets it. And so it's fun because now I can look at the other kids and they look at him as saying, okay, well, he was just an average guy last year as a sophomore, and all of a sudden he's blossomed. And I just look at him as, hey, 5:30 in the morning, get in the weight room. Okay, well,
you want it, right?
that's right. If you want to get to that next level, you got to do the work to get there. Cliff Godwin ain't going to take anybody that doesn't like the weight room at East Carolina. He wants guys that are blue collar workers, love the weight room, willing to listen and get better. And so with every Division I school, that's the way it's gone. Not back like when I played, when you could be 150 pounds and 5'9" and yes, and not love the weight room.
Yep, exactly right. That's such a great story because that is a lot of our regional guys. James and Ethan, James O'Grady is a great example. Last year broke his forearm playing football. Was really trying to put on weight, didn't do it. This winter, he healed up. Doctor cleared him. He lifted really heavy, put on 10, 15 good pounds, and is now swinging it really well. And he's physically matured some as well. So now he's got the arm to play left side of the infield. Hands are there. It'll be neat to watch him this summer because, and those stories happen a lot because guys mature at different rates. Might not be, there's a lot of guys that, and actually got one coming out here. You'll like this, Brandon. We're talking about Brandon Lau. Interviewed him and we talked about this is, back when he was, in high school, 5'7", 140, he wasn't that big. Now he's hitting balls in the upper deck at the Trop. I mean, it's insane the way that the weight room physically maturing really helps a guy. And our regional teams are filled with those types of guys. And that's why we get so many guys committed. A lot of people don't understand that. Our regional teams, I've seen it, beat the brakes off quite a few national teams.
It's crazy because you think, I can't say another organization in the country has ever had their regional team play their national team in a national championship, or their national team play their regional team in a Final Four of Atlanta, or their regional team year in, year out win their brackets or win their pools at okay.
Anywhere.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, did you die?
No, my wife just popped in. Say hello.
Hey.
What up?
What's up, man?
So that's the thing people don't realize that's different about our regional programs, whether it be North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and now this Texas group is going to make a lot of noise. Our Florida group, constantly. So if the kids would just sit there and take a look in the mirror, like you said, and just say, this is where I'm meant to be. These guys are going to do great things for me. We've had kids that have been on our national team, and they've dropped back down to regional team and blossomed down there. So it's not a slap in the face. It's trust the process. And if a parent and a player will trust what we're doing, I mean, the guys that run our organization know what they're doing. I mean, between Jeff and Dan and everybody else, those guys have put 1,000+ kids into college, and probably over 500 kids into pro ball. And it's crazy to see what the organization has done. I remember this organization when it first started back in 2005, Jeff, 6. I remember it, and to where it's come in that time. If these parents would just, if they could see what I've seen over the last, 15, 16 years about what this organization does compared to everybody else, I think those regional players would say, yeah, this is where I need to be, and this is my best spot. I don't want to be the number 9 pitcher on the national team. I want to be the number 1 on the regional team and pitching that opportunity. And then if that happens, you get a kid like Cade Poole who goes, hey, I'm on a 16U Charlotte Canes team, a regional team in North Carolina, and Millsy pops in and sees me and he likes me, and then all of a sudden I get promoted, or not promoted. I get placed on the American team the next year. And then after, Jeff and I get to see the kid, 4 or 5 times last summer, and Coach Willoughby and Coach Tomlin and Zemph, speak his praise. All of a sudden that kid becomes, the number 1 guy in the bullpen for us. And he threw 2 games and this year before the season got ended, and perfect gamed Weddington, which is one of the top teams in the state. So that process of trusting us and going through it, I mean, will pay dividends for these kids. And
I think you mentioned something too that most organizations don't do, with their regional teams is, you and Jeff and Dan and everybody in our organization that are responsible for putting rosters together, still checking in with kids. It's not just, hey, let's put him on a roster and we won't see him again for a while. You're going out there and checking on these kids and getting feedback from your coaches of, hey, this guy's a guy, and you get back out to see guys and check on their process or check on their progress. Excuse me. You don't just throw them on a roster and say, all right, see you later, peace out. You're looking to help them get better, which I think's an important point that needs to be made. That's kudos to you for doing that and making sure that you're looking after all the guys in the central program.
And it helps to have the staff that we do and the support system we do through there. We try. The one thing I can say about our program is that we do have an occasional parent that is a professional coach or a high school coach that will work, but most of our guys, they don't have any bias or any ties into it. This is what they love to do, and they're into that. And so these guys can keep us all in communication and say, these guys are doing really well, these guys aren't doing well, and and Brian Tuck and I are very close, and he's my middle guy, the guy in the central part of the state for me, and he and I will talk about if guys are struggling. Okay, well, what do we got to do to help this kid? He's got it. We know what he can do. We've seen it. So now what do we do? And the honesty that Jeff talked about earlier is important. If a kid is struggling, then we've got to be honest with them and help him get to the point where he expects to be at or wants to be at.
Yeah. And you mentioned Brian Tuck there. I just need to give him a shout out because he was my roomie in Jupiter. And
I bet you there was some snoring in that room.
No, well, he was awful. He was bad. I don't know.
He is bad.
I didn't snore, so I don't know.
Right.
So, you guys are both on the 17 national staff there. I think what happens a lot of times is kids compare their recruiting timeline. Let's say a regional guy, a guy in the Central, compares their timeline to, a national guy who maybe got all, and you're pitching guys, so let's talk arms, those guys typically on the national team have been throwing upper 80s, low 90s, probably for a year or two before they get to you guys. So they've got their timeline was a little bit more accelerated. What is a reasonable timeline, or I guess what kind of advice do you give to parents that are entering the Central program as far as a recruiting timeline?
Well, everybody's different. Rob, it's crazy. I mean, I might bring a left-hander in that's 80 miles an hour as a freshman. Mackenzie Gore. I mean, who would have thought he was going to be what he was when he walked out of there? We knew he was talented as a freshman. But, for me, it's that process that, hey, when you are below 85, we want to gain 4 miles an hour every year that you're here. So if you're 77 as a freshman, we want to see you 81 as a sophomore, 85 as a junior. And then once you hit that 85, we all know it's ticky-tack getting up every notch after that. So if we can maybe get 2 to 3 more, in going into your senior year, then we did what we accomplished. I mean, I don't think it's possible for every human being to throw 90 miles an hour, but I think it is possible for everybody to continue to make that adjustment up to about an 85 before their body's going to dictate what they can and can't do. And then at that point, it's about how much work they want to do. I mean, I got a chance to see Junior Harding pitch. He wasn't 5'9" and threw 94. I mean, so, size isn't the thing. The weight room, taking care of your body, taking care of your arm, being smart about, how you use it during the spring, how you use it during the fall, how you use it during the summer. All those things are good. But, getting back to it again, for me, the timeline in it is going to change. I mean, if you're a Matthew Mateus, shout out to Matty for me, it's before you even step foot your freshman year. He goes to camp up at Carolina. He's, 86 to 90 miles an hour as a 14-year-old, a no-brainer, But then we have a guy like a Philip Sanderson who he starts out and he's like 73 as a freshman, 74, but he throws strikes and can spin it a little bit. And, he's like 80, 81 as a junior. And so he's making that progression. And then he gets with Guy Civitello that summer. And I can't even remember who Guy's pitching. Sebastian Nasble. And they get together and all of a sudden he goes from that 82 to the 87, 88 range. And the next thing you know, the kid's going to Louisville. So, everybody's a little bit different, and not panicking is important. Not being in a rush that you go, school A offered me today, I've got to take it right off the bat. Well, I'm dealing with this with my daughter as well. If they don't have what you want to study, the chances of you making a viable living off playing baseball is slim to none. So you've got to pick a place education-wise that's going to be important, as well as the baseball, as well as your social life. I mean, we all know numerous kids that have gone to colleges and just been like, baseball's fine, school's fine, but I hate it here, coach. And so they've got to, all those things got to work in. And if they jump at the first opportunity, unless it's, like with Matty, he's blue-blooded. I mean, he has that Carolina blue, and I try to get him to wait, but that's where he wanted to go. I wanted him to get out. I knew he wanted to stay in state. But in East Carolina or a State or a Wilmington or so might have been a good option, but that's what he wanted. And so he knew it at that point. Whereas I had another guy that went to Carolina named Alex White back in 06, and he waited until, he was okay. He waited till September 15th of his senior year before he committed, and the kid was a first rounder. I mean, everybody's on that different timeline. And I think when it's, the decision's the right one, you'll know it at the time. And the last thing I will give this one thing for parents: once you make that commitment, stick with that commitment. Don't ever look back and second guess that commitment. You made the right decision for you and your family. You might get somewhere, you might get to North Carolina and play for Coach Fox that first year, and it's the toughest thing you've ever done in your life. And you'll say, man, I hate it here, hate it here, hate it here. But your sophomore year, you'll be glad you stuck it out because Coach Fox is one of the best in the country. And his staff and Forbes or, Avent or whoever it is. I can't be biased in North Carolina because there's so many good coaches. Woodard at Charlotte. And if you'll just stick the process and you'll have faith in it, but don't ever look back and say I made a bad decision. Once you make the decision, stay with that.
Absolutely. I think it's great advice. And it's easy to see why our central program is so successful. Coming down from the top of the processes and the direction, but also surrounding yourself with great coaches and then filling in those rosters with great players. So let's switch gears a little bit. You two know each other pretty well, and I haven't poisoned this well at all. Jeff, I'll give you first crack. How is it coaching with Jason Mills?
This is G-rated, remember?
Yeah. No, I mean, quite honestly, I love it. It's I couldn't see myself coaching with anybody else. It's I'd go to war with that guy any day. I mean, I think that I've had everyone's competitive in our program. We're blessed with that for sure. I think I'm as competitive as it gets, and Jason and I are pretty parallel there. He wants to win at all, not at all costs, just because we also share the same viewpoints on taking care of players. God knows how many millions, hundreds of millions of dollars we've handled in the draft with arms. And we've done that with really little to no conflict as far as the safety's first. But we do a good job communicating, setting up, how we want to attack games, our bullpen, and when to make changes. And a lot of people struggle with that. I look at our national championship run we had so many this year. I mean, this past year was crazy. I mean, I think we went 40-2 or something. It was just wild. We've had a lot of success together. We get into it together. We get into it, but not out in the open. We have disagreements here and there because we're both passionate,
and it's not personal. When you guys have I've seen them and I've been a part of it, and it's not a personal thing. It's just a difference in perspective and things like that. So I just want to make sure that was clear.
No, yeah, it's definitely not personal. I mean, I love him to death. I love him like a brother. I mean, he's the best, and he is a really good coach. Man, he knows how to call a game. He knows how to develop arms. Of course, we're not developing arms, really. I mean, he will get in the pen with a guy. I'll give him some credit. He'll get in the pen with a guy with some elite arm speed, and maybe they didn't know how to throw a slider or something, and he'll tinker with them, and then the next thing you know, the kid's got it. Because we get elite-level athletes sometimes that don't have they don't come from a lot of coaching or whatever, and then we get a ton that do. But he knows how to call a game, knows how to manage our staff. It's really just it's been a blessing for sure.
Absolutely. So Jason, let's turn that around. How's it coaching with El Jefe?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, he gives me the coolest toys in the country to play with every year. So how are you going to be upset about that? I mean, I worked for other organizations and started with probably back in '97 doing showcase baseball, and before it was showcase baseball, it was just fall league at that point. And the organization that he brings to the table, the detailed has made me a better coach at my high school, has made me pay attention to things that I shouldn't have been kind of overlooking that I pay attention to now. And the freedom he gives me to work, I love. I would never coach with anybody else. It's just I have to have freedom if I'm going to do my job as a pitching coach, and he has confidence in me. I have other assets. I have Greg Connors as well, who's helpful. Josh Wright, our strength coach, is probably the best I've ever been around. I mean, my kids' arms or our kids' arms are are manicured and taken well. I mean, what he has brought to the table, and Jeff bringing him in has really improved our program. And the one thing I will say is that when you carry as many pitchers as we do, and I'll explain that in a second, is that you've got to keep those kids invested at all times. Well, if a kid throws the first game of a tournament and he knows he's done, I mean, now is he going to check out? Is he going to be a distraction for you the rest of the time? And our kids don't. And it's because of our staff. It's because of Jeff. It's because of the rules he sets and the standards he sets for our program. And I love working for that or with that. And so, the second thing that I'll say is that he and I carry a lot of pitchers because, I've watched – I talked to one PG All-American. He threw 80 innings during the spring, at his high school. Hey, you had a good high school. You're going to probably do that with as many rounds of playoffs. He had already thrown 67 innings more and this summer. And, he had come over and introduced himself and was looking to maybe change positions or change teams. And I went back and checked his inning total. I'm like, dude, you either stay with the club you're at, but you're not coming with us. The safety issue, we don't want you to get hurt on our watch. And, we're so good about that. I mean, Mackenzie Gore, when he came out of his high school program after winning state championship his junior year, we knew how many innings we had. And so Jeff and I will talk and we'll say, hey, before the game, you got Max Carlson going today. You got him for 60 pitches. That's what his limit is today. And we know that's what it is. And so when we get to that 40, we have someone stirring. Max is out there throwing a great game, giving up one hit through 4 innings against a great team, and we're getting to that total. And he wants to keep going, but that's where Jeff does a great job, and he's an adult, and he's thinking not about today, but he's thinking about tomorrow and the future for these kids. And then he also has 5 more of Max Carlson sitting right behind him. So when you
the thing is, and back to the honesty thing, and not everybody does their business this way. And I always like knowing where I stood, and maybe this is the wrong way. So we'll have Carlson for 60. And then me and Mills, a lot of times this would just be a pitching coach to head coach conversation. So it'd be, we have our A's. And our A's, we got maybe 5 A's on the board. And they're on the board. They're coming in the game if it's tied or we're up 1 or 2 or we're down 1 or 2. Then you got your B's. We're up 3 runs. Or you got your C's. We're up 6, 7 runs. Our players know where they're at. Like, you're a C because you don't throw a lot of strikes, bud. You're a B because you throw strikes, but you're not as good as an A and you get hit. You give up too much contact. You're a B. You're going to come out
as good as secondary stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
No, B is all relative. The kid's really good.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right. He's not Max Carlson. Max Carlson's an A. Jason Savicle's an A. Caden Grice is an A. I'm talking about guys last
year guys. Yeah,
These are guys that they've got 3 pitches. They don't give up hard contact. They have a lot of strikeouts, early contact, not a lot of 3-ball counts. Hell, not a lot of 2-ball counts, really.
Yeah.
Those are our A's. And we looked up last year. This is hilarious. We're in Phoenix last year. We went into the playoffs with like 9 A's. Just like Cade Kuehler. I mean, that guy was an A.
He was an A.
He threw 3 pitches for strikes. I mean, he might not have been 95, but who cares?
And you know what?
Beat the bottom of the zone up.
What's crazy about it is in the semifinal game, we ran a guy that we thought was a C because he had been struggling, and he goes out there and throws a no-hit ball for 4 innings, and in the 5th inning runs out of gas. But he's 90-92 with a good slider and did a great job for us. And and that's the great thing about our organization is that we don't have to stretch our guys to the limit where we're putting them in danger. We always have plans, and and we can always work with what we have and do a great job. Now, Jeff and I, we get heated at some times, and he's right, we do, and it's great because as an assistant coach, my job is to challenge my head coach thought process, not like challenge him for power or anything like that, but challenge his thought process and get him different ideas. And sometimes, he doesn't like my ideas. And when he doesn't like them, I'm good with that. That's great. That's awesome. Sometimes I do have a good idea, or Greg will have a
You
good
have a
idea.
lot of good ideas.
I mean,
Sometimes.
so that's the thing, is that as an assistant coach, and I really honestly believe this, a good assistant coach, one is going to be loyal to the end of the earth. And I will always be loyal to Jeff forever. And the second thing is that, hey, good pick right there. The second thing is that when a good assistant also recognizes that when the head coach doesn't agree with him, that it's not personal. I mean, it's hard, but we've all three of us have been head coaches. It's hard being a head coach, and it's hard when you have 5 different people giving you ideas that are different, and then you pick one, and the other 4 people have to be grown up. Yeah, they have to be grown-ups. I mean, you can't be butthurt about it. You gotta say, hey, he didn't go with this, and this is what we're going with. We've had times before where Jeff has made a decision with who he wanted to throw in a game, and I didn't agree with it. And when we went to it, we went after it. And more times than not, I'd say 95% of the time, Jeff was always right. And that's why he'll always have my confidence. I mean, always have my. I like getting underneath his skin sometimes. I do a good job of that. Bus rides are the best. But it's probably, I couldn't imagine any staff that has more fun than what we have, or the kids, the experience that our kids have being together like they are. I know everybody talks about their brothers and everything else, but I mean, a lot of travel teams like the ones I've been on before I joined the Canes, they show up at the field, they play, and then they go home with their parents. But there's something, where even when I was with the Charlotte Canes or the other Canes or the Central Canes, our parents were going out to dinner, the players were together. Most of the time our players stay at the same hotels, and, it's a really good family system that we have. And it started with Jeff. I saw it in 2005. And then I saw it in 2009, and then I didn't really get a chance to see Jeff for a couple, about 2 years in there. But, I kind of from afar saw it, and it's just this family atmosphere, this professional atmosphere, this growth atmosphere that he has grown over the last 15, 16 years is just, if I had a son that played baseball, this is, and the idea that he wanted to be in college, this is where I'd want to be.
I agree. And my point of doing that is I heard exactly what I wanted to hear. The level of love and trust and respect that goes both ways, and the freedom that you have, Millsy, to really do things inside of your arena trickles down to and is pervasive in the Central program as well. You get that level of trust and that level of respect from Jeff. Well, as you're hiring your coaches in that Central program, same thing happens. You're making sure you've got the best guys for the job. And just the neat part is sitting back listening to this. Just the way your voice has changed a little bit when you talked about each other, just details the level of respect that you guys have for each other. And it's really neat to see because, a lot of organizations I see are very transactional. We got a player, it's cool. It comes from relationships inside the Canes, and we talk about it all the time, being a family and caring for one another. And, you tied it up very well at the end there about, kids hanging out together, going together. That's really the organization that Jeff has, and the mindset that Jeff has surrounded himself with, guys that believe in that and that want that for our organization. So, it's not just one team here or another team here. It's really throughout the organization. And it's something that, you've done a great job of building out the Central, but you've been given the tools and the range to be able to do that. So it's neat. It's neat to hear you guys talk about each other because I'm just used to the Snapchats and stuff like that.
Yeah, all good, man. We hope we get back to that field, man.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I know.
It's going to happen sometime.
It is. It's.
I'll never take another day for granted. I'll never take another day.
No.
I won't.
No, I agree. So,
A wake-up call.
yeah, right. Millsy, it's been awesome talking to you. I appreciate your candor. Again, you're a friend. You're a friend of mine and of Jeff's. Obviously, I don't get to see you nearly as much, but the love is still there. And hope you're glad to hear your family's doing well. Hope your mom's doing well. Love all of you guys very much. And man, it's been awesome talking to you.
Did you hear that?
No, I heard it. I heard it.
Hey, we've been talking to Jason
throw
Mills.
it in there, man.
We've been talking to Jason Mills, the director of our Central program with the Canes. If you are in North Carolina or Southern Virginia, or even we can pull some guys from South Carolina, give Jason a call. We will put his contact information in the show notes. Follow him on social media. He is an awesome guy, a great pitching mind, and just a great dude. So, Millsy, thanks for everything, buddy. And
man, it was fun.
Yeah, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
You're the man.
Millsy.
See you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Big shout out to Coach Mills for being with us. Go give him a follow on all social media channels at DHC Baseball. If you enjoyed this episode, like, comment, subscribe, review, and share. Give us a follow on social media at CaneCast Show. You can reach out to me on all social channels at Rob Younce, or email me directly at robyounce@gmail.com. You can find Jeff Petty on all social media channels at WJeffPetty. We welcome your feedback as we look to improve the show every single time out. Until our next episode, stay safe, wash your hands, and find a travel program that works for you without you having to request it.